Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm kicking off my new Midnight Tales marathon for you guys. And the first video that I'll be reacting to is 5 Scary True Subscriber horror stories. Now, these are basically horror stories that are from Midnight Tales' subscribers, and they don't have no theme to them at all. They're just at random that people send in to them. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road and then back, shall we? Okay, here we go.
This was back in 2019 when I was still in high school in Canada, before I moved to the US. That year I met a girl, let's call her Tess. We hit it off right away, became close friends, and before long, we were dating. Things were amazing. We spent every day together, constantly texting, making out between classes. You know, typical high school couple stuff. At one point, I even thought I could actually marry this girl someday. That's how serious we were.
I heard it from all my other friends. It was almost like high school sweethearts at first sight, right? Well, I know some of them already got married to whoever they were dating in high school. Sometimes it don't end up that way. They end up breaking up and marrying somebody else. But hey, at least they found love, right?
One Sunday night, we had just finished watching a movie together. We held hands and talked the whole way back to her house, laughing and joking like we always did. When we got to her place, we hugged, kissed, and said goodnight. She giggled, waved, and went inside. I ordered an Uber and headed home, already looking forward to seeing her at school the next day. It didn't matter if we were apart for an hour or a minute. I always missed her. I had no idea that was the last moment we'd ever have. The next morning, I went through my usual routine. Woke up, ate breakfast, brushed my teeth, got dressed, and biked to school. I didn't even check my phone that morning, which turned out to be a huge mistake. I got to school early, and everything seemed fine. Then, right before my first class started, the lockdown siren blared through the school. Now, lockdown drills weren't that unusual, but this one felt off. It only lasted 10 minutes before the principal got on the intercom and told us everything was fine. That was weird. If it was a real threat, shouldn't it have lasted longer? And if it was just a drill, why didn't they tell us beforehand? I was still thinking about it when my teacher suddenly read something from her computer screen and said I had to go to the principal's office. At that point, I was beyond confused. I hadn't done anything. Why was I getting called in? The second I walked into the office and saw the principal's face, I knew something was really, really wrong. He looked shaken. When he finally spoke, his words hit me like a truck. He told me Tess had been arrested. Apparently, she had posted a photo on Instagram the night before, threatening to shoot up the school. Someone saw the post and immediately reported it.
Oh my goodness. Man, I know his jaw will be dropping. But that is a shocker that he's dating somebody that threatened to shoot up a school. Man, that's crazy. I wonder why she all of a sudden changed from being all bubbly and happy towards him and then all of a sudden go berserk and threaten to shoot up a school. I mean, does somebody pick on her or what? I don't know. I don't want to jump ahead to any conclusions, so let's continue on and see what happens next.
Which is why the lockdown happened. The police had already come and taken her into custody. I felt like I was going to be sick. My mind couldn't even process what I was hearing. Tess. My Tess. The girl I loved. The girl I had just kissed goodnight. How could she do something like this? I completely broke down, right there in the principal's office. He handed me a box of tissues and put a hand on my shoulder, asking if there was anything he could do. The only thing I could think to say was, "Can I go home?" He nodded and told me I could take the day off, but I had to be back at school tomorrow. I mumbled a thank you, walked out in a daze, and rode my bike home, trying to wrap my head around everything. As soon as I got home, I went online and checked Tess's social media. Everything was gone. Either she had deleted her accounts, or they had been taken down. The whole day, I sat there thinking, why? Why would she do something like this? Had she always been this way? Then I remembered something. A while back, I had asked her about her past, just normal relationship stuff, wanting to know more about her. She got really uncomfortable and shut the conversation down fast. She wouldn't tell me anything. At the time, I didn't think much of it. But now I couldn't help but wonder what she had been hiding. I ended up calling my parents and venting everything. They were just as shocked as I was. None of it made sense. This wasn't some random girl. I knew Tess. Or at least, I thought I did. The rest of high school was tough. I had to go back the next day, knowing that if someone hadn't reported her, that could have been the day she followed through with her plan. I started going to therapy because my mental health took a serious hit. The whole thing messed with my head a lot. As for Tess, I have no idea what happened to her after that. She never reached out to me again, and honestly, I'm glad. Looking back, I realize I never really knew who she was. She'd been hiding something dark, something I never saw until it was too late. Wherever she is now, I hope she got the help she needed.
I hope she did too, because that is just wrong, posting on social media that you're going to go shoot up a school. I mean, then you cause the school to go in lockdown, panic mode. But luckily, they got the cops to go in there and arrest her. And I figured that the authorities probably made her delete all of her social media accounts if he was not able to find her on any platform because of that little stunt she did. But I feel sorry for this dude that he felt like he found the girl of his dreams and all of a sudden she acted like this. I'm glad he's going to therapy as well, just to try to cope with everything that's going on. But I'm sorry he had to go through all that. That's just awful. You think you know somebody and all of a sudden you don't. Almost like a two-faced persona, if you will.
When I started college at the University of Hartford, I was excited for the whole college experience. New friends, parties, independence, all of it. I wasn't sure what I wanted to study yet, so I went in as an undecided major, figuring I'd take my time to figure it out. But one thing I was sure about was that I wanted to be part of Greek life. Fraternities always seemed like a great way to make lifelong friends, have fun, and be part of something bigger. So when Rush Week rolled around, I signed up for one of the frats. Won't say the name for obvious reasons. At first, it was exactly what I expected. Hanging out, playing games, and getting to know the guys.
You see, this is why I never went to college myself. Because one, I would not know what classes to take, and I'm not a huge fan of partying all night and hanging out with frat guys that do. Sometimes I heard frat parties do a lot of dumb, crazy stuff. So I wouldn't be doing that at all. But anyway, let's continue.
The first week was chill, but when the second week started, things got a little more intense. That's when the hazing began. The first test was drinking 4 cans of beer in under 2 minutes. I'm not gonna lie, I barely kept it down. I was so drunk I ended up throwing up everywhere. Apparently, I was being so loud and obnoxious that someone almost called the cops on me. I figured that was just part of the process, but I had no idea what was coming next. The final night of Rush Week, that's when things really went south. I showed up at the frat house like usual, thinking it would be another night of drinking and dumb dares. But when I got there, the atmosphere felt off. There were more members than usual just standing around, waiting. The leader of the frat looked at me and said, "Come with us." No explanations, no jokes, nothing. I followed them, assuming it was just another part of the process. We started walking, and after a while, I realized we were heading away from campus. As we got farther and farther, I understood that we were going into the woods. My first thought, they were probably going to make me streak back to campus or do something ridiculous like that.
Oh, that would be messed up. At this point, I'll be like, okay, I'm done with you guys. but telling them thank you for letting me experience what a frat house does. But I am not going in the woods to run back to the campus naked. No. So this guy needs to be on his toes and run fast if he needs to. But something tells me they ain't going in there to do a crazy fraternity dare. It's something worse.
Honestly, I would have been fine with it. Embarrassing? Sure. Dangerous? Not really. But that wasn't their plan. When we reached a clearing, they blindfolded me. I felt hands tying the mask tight around my head, and then they pushed me down onto what felt like a mat. Before I could ask what was happening, I felt ropes wrapping around my arms and legs, securing me to something. I started to panic, but before I could say anything, I heard a voice counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then boiling hot water. The pain was unreal. I let out a scream that probably echoed for miles. It felt like my skin was peeling off. But they weren't done. They did it again, and then again. Each time the water felt hotter, like they were slowly roasting me alive. I begged them to stop, but they just laughed. Finally, they untied me and yanked the blindfold off. I was shaking, barely able to stand. The frat members surrounded me in a circle, just staring at me. I had no idea what was coming next. Then, their leader stepped forward, grinning like nothing had just happened. He reached out his hand and said, "Congratulations, you're in." Like hell I was. The second they left, I grabbed my phone. Thank God I still had it, and called 911. I told them everything. They sent a car to pick me up, took me to the station, and I reported the entire thing. After that, they rushed me to the hospital, where I was treated for first-degree burns. I called my mom and told her everything, and she was absolutely devastated. She promised to come get me immediately. When I got home, we had a long talk. I told her I couldn't stay at that school. I needed a fresh start. She completely agreed. We also reported the incident to the university, and soon after, that fraternity was suspended. This past August, I transferred to a different college, and this time, no way was I even considering joining Greek life. I've seen firsthand what happens behind the scenes, and I wouldn't wish that experience on anyone. People think frats are all about brotherhood and fun, but trust me, a real brotherhood doesn't torture you. When I have kids, I'm making sure they never go through what I did.
What did I tell you? It was worser than doing a silly stunt with him running around the campus naked. Golly, boiling water? I'm surprised they didn't kill him. And I agree with him too. It'd be like if the leader said, "Congratulations, you're in," I'd be like, "The hell I am." I wouldn't join that fraternity either if they did all that to me. But I'm glad he did the right thing and just bolted and got picked up by the cops to report it and go to the hospital to tend for them burns. And thank God that they reported it to the university and got that fraternity shut down, because if it was still running, oh man, them guys are going to be mad. Well, they're probably mad now that he shut their fraternity down, but hey, you did some stupid torture test on them. And if you haven't done that, you wouldn't have been shut down. But I'm just glad that he got out of there safe and sound otherwise, and he wasn't going to join no other fraternity order again.
Back in January of 2012, I was in college in Isla Vista, California. Winter break had just ended, and my best friend Ella and I were easing back into our routine. Part of that routine? Our daily Starbucks run for caramel vanilla swirl iced coffee. That morning, we walked in and saw that the line was long, but moving fast. Right in front of us was this pale, skinny guy with short hair. He glanced back at us when he heard us talking and gave us this weird, unsettling smile. One of those smiles that instantly made my skin crawl. It wasn't friendly. It was off. Ella and I didn't react, just kept chatting like normal, and he turned back around. When it was his turn to order, he got 2 hot, skinny vanilla lattes. That struck me as odd because he was alone. Why 2? I didn't dwell on it, though. He stepped aside to wait, and we placed our order next. A few minutes later, We heard a barista call out his name, Elliot. He grabbed both lattes, and for some reason, he took off the lids. Ella and I were confused. Why would someone do that? Then, without warning, he jerked his arms forward and threw the hot coffee straight at us. It happened so fast, we barely had time to react.
Oh, I'll be furious. Because at first I was thinking, okay, he's just one of them crazy people that might want to go talk and flirt with him later, but no, he seems like he has some issues towards women altogether. I mean, that's the only thing I could come up with for him throwing darn lattes at him, and that was all called for. Them girls didn't do nothing to him.
The liquid burned as it hit our faces, the heat searing our skin. Both of us screamed from the pain, still trying to process what had just happened. And then, just as quickly as he attacked, Elliot snarled, "That's what you two bitches get for not smiling at me," before bolting out the door and disappearing. We stood there, stunned, our faces throbbing. A Starbucks employee rushed over and asked if we were okay. I could barely get the words out, but I managed to ask for a cold cloth. He nodded and returned quickly with a couple of wet towels. The cold helped soothe the burning sensation, but we were still shaken. The manager came out and asked if we wanted to call the police. We looked at each other, still in shock, and said no. We just wanted to get out of there. That day, we skipped our classes and stayed home, trying to calm down. Looking back, I think Elliot was one of those guys who felt invisible and blamed women for it. He probably saw us, thought we were attractive, and when we didn't acknowledge him the way he wanted, it set him off. Maybe he had never been in a relationship before. Maybe he had barely talked to any women outside of his family. Who knows? All I knew was that he was deeply insecure, and we got caught in his frustration. Over time, I forgot about it. Life went on. Then, in May 2014, it all came flooding back. By that time, I was finishing my junior year, living in my own apartment. One morning, I turned on the news like I always did. But what I saw made my body freeze. 7 people had been killed in a mass shooting, and the name of the shooter flashed across the screen. Elliot Rodger. I felt a chill run through me. That name, that face. It was him. The same guy who had thrown coffee at us for not smiling at him.
Oh, heck no. They should have called the cops. Because then he would have been arrested and probably in jail for assault, and that mass shooting probably would have never took place. Oh, man. I'm still mad he threw daggum lattes in their faces. I mean, they don't want to smile at you. They don't want to smile at you. They don't even know you, dude. Man, if I was in that store and I saw that happen, me and I'll get a Starbucks employee to come around and tackle that guy down to the ground and show him that you should not be doing that to women.
I grabbed my phone and immediately called Ella, telling her to turn on the news. She was just as shocked as I was, barely able to form words. Everything came rushing back. The way he had snapped over something so small, the anger in his voice, the way he disappeared after attacking us. Over the next few days, more details came out. He had written a manifesto, explaining that his attack was driven by misogyny, revenge for social rejection, and a belief that women owed him attention. Apparently, he had been posting online rants for years, complaining that women ignored him while choosing obnoxious guys instead. He hated couples, and it wasn't even the first time he'd thrown drinks at people. Back in 2011, he had done the same thing to 2 different couples out of pure jealousy. And the worst part? He had been planning this massacre for over a year. I felt sick. This wasn't just some awkward, lonely guy. He was dangerous. He was filled with so much hatred that he was willing to kill people over it. The news also revealed that after his attack, he had taken his own life. His father was interviewed, and honestly, he looked like he was in complete denial about the kind of person his son had been. It made me wonder, did he really not see the warning signs, or did he just choose to ignore them? I think about that Starbucks incident a lot now. At the time, I brushed it off as some random guy with issues. But looking back, I realize it was a red flag. one of many that people probably ignored. And honestly, a part of me wonders, if I had just smiled back, would things have been different? Would I have just been another girl who unknowingly pacified him for a moment? I don't know. But what I do know is that there are a lot of people like him out there, and that's the scariest part of all.
You guys, I was just wondering why that name Elliot Rodger seemed familiar, but it turned out that was the same person that was on Mr. Nightmare's video that he was talking about him, the killer YouTuber. I said, I did not even know that he did that to girls too, by throwing lattes at them. Like I said in that video, if Elliot only acted more kindly towards women, and they would not had rejected him in life. And plus, even about all the fancy clothes that he tried to show off on his body and the nice car, I feel like that's what he went wrong with while trying to attract some girls. I said not every girl is into that. And all he had to do to prevent this was go talk to mom and dad or go to a psychiatrist and talk about it. And they could probably guide him on a path to be more calmer and nicer to women that he meets. And he wouldn't have gone out and shot a bunch of people. Never thought that I would hear a story from someone that had an encounter with him. I mean, that's just like bizarre. But I'm just glad that that latte did not damage her and her friend's skin that bad. But really, that was uncalled for him to do that. Because that act of rage right there makes him seem to be more like a bully type person.
Most people know me as an NBA player, but before I made it, life wasn't easy. I grew up in Chicago, in a tough neighborhood, with my mom working 3 jobs just to keep us going. We lived in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment, and sometimes my aunt and cousins would help watch me when my mom was out working. Times were rough, and I was just a kid trying to figure out my way in the world. By the time I was a teenager, I had started making some bad choices. A lot of the men I saw around me were hustlers, including some of my mom's boyfriends. Eventually, I got into selling drugs myself. I wasn't proud of it, but in my mind, it was just a way to survive and help my family. One night in August 2008, I met up with my boy Donovan, one of my closest friends. I sold him some dope, and we smoked together. I don't remember exactly how high I got, but I do know I wasn't thinking straight when I got behind the wheel of my white Dodge Magnum. Driving under the influence was the biggest mistake of my life. I was so out of it I barely realized where I was going. As I came up to an intersection, I thought the light was green, but it was red. Before I could react, I plowed straight through it and crashed into another car. My car flipped 3 times. I wasn't even wearing a seatbelt. Somehow, by pure luck, or maybe something greater, I survived. When I climbed out of the wreck, barely believing I was still alive, a guy standing nearby handed me my phone, which had flown out of the car. He asked if I was okay, but I barely heard him through the shock. I told him to call an ambulance, and when the EMTs arrived, they were just as surprised as I was that I had walked away without a scratch. Physically, I healed fast, but emotionally, that's a scar that never really faded. A few weeks later, something happened that shook me even more. I had just gotten a new car. Nothing fancy, just something affordable to get around in. Donovan and I were hanging out, playing dice on the corner, like we always did. After a while, I told him I was heading to my grandma's house. I kept telling him to come with me, but he said he'd catch up later. I didn't push him. I just left. That was the last time I ever saw him. Not long after I drove off, I got a phone call from a hospital. Donovan had been shot multiple times. He didn't make it. I remember just sitting there, completely frozen. My best friend, someone who had been like a brother to me, was gone. The pain hit me so hard I couldn't even speak. I called my mom, and when I told her, she broke down crying. She told me to come get her, and we went to the hospital together to identify his body. He hadn't even been carrying ID. For months after that, I couldn't sleep without seeing his face in my dreams. Sometimes I even talked to him like he was still there, like he could hear me. Maybe I was just losing my mind, or maybe I just wasn't ready to let go. 2 days after Donovan passed, I got a call to play pro basketball in Ukraine. I was 20 years old, and my college career had already gone downhill. I had academic issues, failed classes, and even got caught paying someone to write a paper for me. I tried to deny it at first, but in the end, I had to own up to what I did. So when the opportunity came to play overseas, I took it. Not just for me, but for Donovan. I knew he would have wanted me to keep pushing forward, no matter what. Years later, I made it to the NBA. I built a career, made a name for myself, and even earned some accolades along the way. But no matter what I accomplish, I always think about my boy. This story is for you, Donovan. I know you're watching over me, and one day we'll meet again. But until then, I've got more work to do.
See, this is why you get on drugs and start selling dope yourself. Bad things will happen to you in your life. I'm like him. I'm surprised that he survived in this car crash without even wearing a seatbelt. But then it's just sad to think that he was with his best friend, and then when he left him, he got the call saying he got shot. Probably was some gang member that he had bad ties with. I don't know, and I don't want to speculate. But that is just sad to hear that he lost his friend after he just asked him to go with him to his grandma's house. All right, let's get to the final story, shall we?
You know, there are some childhood memories that just stick with you, no matter how much time passes. And for me, this one still gives me chills. I was about 5 or 6 when this happened, and to this day, I swear I had a ghostly encounter in my own home. One night, I was curled up on the couch watching TV when something caught my attention. A rocking chair across the room started moving on its own. At first, I brushed it off. The windows were open, but there was no wind, no draft, nothing that could have made it move. It rocked back and forth a few more times before suddenly stopping, like someone had been sitting there and just got up. It was weird, but I was a kid, so I just went back to watching my show. The next night, I was in the same spot, watching TV again, when I heard something crash in the kitchen. I jumped and turned my head to see a cup lying on the floor, right under the shelf where it had been sitting. Now I was really starting to feel uneasy. Things don't just fall like that for no reason. I picked it up, put it back, and told myself maybe it was just placed too close to the edge. But deep down, I wasn't convinced. Nothing happened the following night, so I started to relax a little. But then, a couple of days later, something happened that I still can't explain. I was watching TV, just like before, when out of nowhere, the radio sitting on a desk near the TV turned on by itself. No one was near it. It wasn't on a timer. It just started playing static, like someone was messing with the dial. My whole body tensed up, and I felt tears welling in my eyes. That was it. I was done. I ran straight to my parents' room, where my mom was on the phone. She paused her conversation and asked me what was wrong, and through my panicked sobs, I told her about the radio turning on by itself. She sighed, put the phone down for a second, and told me to come with her. We walked back to the living room, and of course, by the time we got there, the radio was completely silent. My mom just shook her head and said, "See? There's nothing here." I tried to tell her I wasn't making it up, but she didn't believe me. She just went back to her call like nothing happened. After that night, nothing else weird happened. But for the longest time, I avoided being alone in that living room. Even when I finally got over it, the memory stuck with me. Some people don't believe in ghosts, but after that experience, I don't think anything could convince me they aren't real.
Well, If somebody told me that they had a ghostly encounter with a radio just coming on all of a sudden, then I'll believe them. This guy's mother should have taken the time and checked the radio just to make sure it won't know either loose wire or some other problem making it turn on. Then she could go back to her phone conversation. I mean, the parents should believe their kids, even though it might sound strange or they're making it up. You always got to check to make sure nothing is wrong. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more Midnight Tales content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Core channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. I say that's a wrap, and have a nice day, y'all.